All right, so we're getting cracking on this COVID-19 memorial for Eisenhower. So next step, we're going to do a little install template. So that's what this video is for. It's mostly for fab and install. Both of you will be using it, making it, whatnot. So lay of the land, it's all 090. You're going to have your centerpiece here. You'll have 5 braces for the points, and you'll have 5 points. And each point is going to get 2 stake mounts for the first part of how you're going to use this thing. So we'll go over that. So mostly it's all laid out here for you, but I just wanted to go over it so you kind of make some points here. Get it? Make some points. So this is going to be this is going to be used twice, this install thing. So I know that originally I had planned on making this a little more conservative and maybe not use so much material or whatever, but I thought that I know this doesn't have a lot of moving parts, but there's a lot that could go wrong, and I thought it would be beneficial to actually have a full-size version of this at our disposal. Originally, I was kind of just contemplating on doing some quick stuff and, like I said, just keeping it real abstract. But this will allow for us to have an actual full size of what we're using, and that might come in handy later on for the granite and people, or when we're laying this out and stuff, we can actually measure and we know exactly what we're dealing with. So as usual, a little more upfront might make things a lot easier on the end. So yes, we are spending a little more time, but I think it's worth it in the end. Slow is smooth, smooth is fast. So break a few eggs, make a good omelet, all that stuff. So really for fab, there's really not much to it. You're going to take all 5 points and you're going to bend up the braces, and you're going to rivet these braces on here, and you're going to rivet these stake holders here on each one. Now make sure that, this will be on top, face up, and make sure that you rivet from the bottom. You want the mushroom out. That way, when this goes to lay down onto concrete, eventually it's going to be sitting on concrete. You don't want the mushrooms sticking out the back. You want this thing not to be 4-by-ing so much. So make sure that from the underside, you rivet everything from the bottom and the mushroom stays on top. So, but that's it. You're going to rivet these on, and you're going to rivet these on, and you're done. Do not assemble it, or you don't have to. I mean, you can assemble it if you want, but the idea is to just keep it mobile. So you'll have 5 of these points, and essentially there's nothing for you to do with this center piece in fabrication. So now install, when you guys are ready. I see this thing being used in 2 different stages. So hence the reason why I kind of splurged a little more to make it a little more rugged. So the first one you're going to be using in the dirt only in order to run the electrical. So if you remember the other video, we were discussing that you're going to run sweeps, down underneath the concrete, pop up, and make sure the sweeps are long enough and we can adjust them later. Going back and forth with Jim, you might want to discuss with him just to double check, triple check, because we're getting 2 different versions of things. So we just want to make sure that we are going to do one garden box and just do a single sweep in and do 120, and then we can jump 120 to the next one and then do a sweep over to the next one and then just terminate. I did make these holes obviously long enough, like I talked about in the last video, and we can easily put a power supply in here. So, and they will be serviceable. So I think it's just easier to do one garden box, one sweep to each, and just work your way along. So in order to do that and make sure this thing doesn't move around, that's why you'll see that there are 2 stake assembly points right here. So you can go ahead and shoot screws in, stake this thing down on both sides of each point, make sure this doesn't move, and you'll have a nice rock solid template to work with. At which point then you can work on making your sweeps go around while this stays in the dirt. Once you get to that point and everything's all, done and signed off and everything, then they'll pour the concrete. And then, I'm skipping ahead here. So when you guys go to put this together, you can put this together in the field. So obviously this thing is going to be way too big to transport in one shot. We're looking at, 102 by 104, so almost 10 feet. So you'll take it over in these pieces. You'll have the 5 points all pre-assembled for you. Just like I told Fab, you make sure that you shoot your number 10 self-tappers through the bottom and up through the brace so the points stick out through the top. That way you only have, shoot from this direction and make sure, and that way the head is the only thing sticking out, and then the screw can poke through. And then that way when you go to lay it on concrete the next time you use it, it'll lay as flat as possible. I understand it's not going to lay perfectly flat, obviously, but it's better than having the screws sticking out. So just that's it. So when you go to assemble this thing in the field, just make sure that these points line up really nice, kind of line it up nice, and then take your time to shoot screws through, and you'll shoot these 6, and that'll put that point on, work your way around, and that way you'll have a fully assembled star to work with. So like I say, the first time you use it, you'll be using it on the dirt, and that will allow you to use this target right here to get your pipes laid out. Then the second time I see us using it, then you can disassemble as much as you need. Maybe you don't need to disassemble the whole thing. Maybe you can just take 1 point off, and then maybe it'll fit in the truck at that point. But you want to save this. Don't let this thing get beat up. And then what you're going to do is once they pour the concrete and all the power's run and everything, then the second time you go back, I have holes here that will allow for a blue screw on each point. And then you can lay this thing out where it's supposed to be based on where your electrical is. And then what you're going to do is then use these holes to put your 3/8 Hilti epoxy studs in, like we talked about. That was on the other video. So you'll have the Hilti epoxy studs will be going down in, and they'll poke up long enough to go into the box. This is 1.25 inches. I think this got changed to like 3/4 of an inch granite. So these studs don't even need to be that long, but we'll jump off that bridge when we get to it. Just need to get the concrete poured right now. So that's what the install template doing a full size will allow us to do, is to kind of, know exactly where it's going to be more accurate when it comes to this point. So once the concrete's all poured, you'll realign this, get it back over the electrical properly, make sure it's where we want it. And then you can shoot blue screws, 5 of them all the way around temporarily into our concrete base, because obviously you won't see these holes because they're going to put the granite on top of it. But for now, you can go ahead and blue screw it down. It won't move, and then you can get really froggy. And then you'll go ahead and shoot your 3 stud holes per point, epoxy them in, and then we're good. Then technically this template will have served its purpose. But I see also what might help is before you take this off, before you take the blue screws out, maybe take some marking paint or just spray paint, whatever, and then go ahead, and I know it kind of sucks because the beautiful template will get paint on it, but you'll go ahead and just paint around this thing and trace it onto the concrete for the granite homies. Now, obviously they're going to have to, they'll know where this goes based on where the studs are, but we gave them 1-inch holes for a 3/8 stud. So there's a lot of variance in play. So before taking this up, spray painting all the way around the perimeter and then peeling it off and have a dedicated layout. That will be, again, that was kind of also why I said, let's just spend a little more. And that way we can actually have the star where it belongs, rather than a obscure template that's sort of abstract. So anyway, and then at which point, again, try to keep it nice. Maybe we put it together and hang it on a wall somewhere. Look kind of cool. So anyway, so that's it. So you got, studs or stakes for the first layout for install there when you do the concrete. And then the second time you can shoot blue screws. But again, just make sure that you put the screws from the bottom so it has as smooth as bottom as possible. And these fins here will sort of protect you with the screws sticking up. I know that's not really that safe, but the fins sticking up will help you, and just be careful when you're walking around this thing. Don't puncture yourself. So, but anyway, so I think that's it for the template. And obviously there's going to be more coming up on actually how to build the actual little pieces that go up. So we'll jump off that bridge when we get to it. So, all right, that's it.